Hey everyone, welcome to another training video on our official channel of Cloud 360. In this video, we will understand the requirement for Active Directory domain service sites and the subnets. My name is Navneet Kumar and I'm a Microsoft certified trainer. Let's get started. Before we dive into the Active Directory sites and services, let us understand the Active Directory domain services. The Active Directory Domain Services, also referred as ADDS, is a core component of Microsoft's Directory Services suite. It provides a centralized and standardized system for the network management, allows the administrators to manage the users, computers, and other resources within a domain. The Active Directory Domain Service stores the information about the objects on the network and makes this data accessible for both administrators and the users. It facilitates the authentication and authorization processes. It ensures that users have appropriate access to resources. ADDS also serves as a foundation for deploying other services like group policies, certificate services, or federation services. By organizing the network elements into a hierarchical structure, ADDS simplifies the management of large and complex networks. Its integration with DNS allows for efficient location of the domain controllers and other services. Overall, ADDS enhances security, scalability, and manageability in enterprise environments. Well, now let us talk about the sites and subnets and their role in Active Directory domain services. In ADDS, sites and subnets are used to represent the physical structure of a network. A site is a group of well connected IP subnets that reflect the physical topology of a network. Subnets define the range of IP addresses within a network segment and are used to associate client machines with specific sites. This association helps optimizing the network traffic and ensures that the client connects to the nearest domain controllers for authentication and directory services. Sites are crucial for managing the replication traffic between the domain controllers as they allow the administrators to control when and how the replication occurs. By defining sites and the subnets accurately, organizations can reduce the latency, can improve login times, and enhance the overall network efficiency. The use of sites also enables the better control over the resource access and policy applications based on geographic or the network boundaries. Now that we know the requirement of the sites in an Active Directory domain in different geographical locations to operate, let us talk about how the sites and subnets work in Active Directory. The sites and subnets work together to optimize the performance and the reliability of directory services. Each subnet is mapped to a site, and domain controllers are placed within these sites to serve the authentication and directory requests. When a client logs onto the network, it uses its IP address to determine its subnet and consequently its site. This allows the client to locate and connect to the nearest domain controller, reducing the latency and improving the response time. The replication between domain controllers is also managed based on the site topology. Now let us talk about the configuration steps. For the configuration of sites and subnets in Active Directory, we need to follow several key steps to ensure the accurate representation of the network topology. First, the administrators open the Active Directory Sites and Services Management console, wherefrom they create the new sites, and then they can link these sites together by creating the site links. The appropriate protocol, be it RPC over IP or SMTP selection is also crucial. There are other elements like defining the cost for a site link or the replication frequency and the schedule are also important parameters. We will see all these parameters shortly in the demonstration. Before jumping into the demonstration, let's talk about some operational best practices while defining these sites and subnets. Implementing these best practices for the Active Directory sites and subnets is essential for maintaining a robust and efficient directory service. Administrators should use the descriptive and consistent naming conventions for these sites and subnets to simplify the management and troubleshooting. Accurate mapping of subnets to the sites ensures that the client connects to the nearest domain controllers. This reduces the authentication delays. Regular monitoring of the replication traffic and site link performance helps identifying and resolving the potential bottlenecks. It's also advisable to schedule the replication during the off peak hours to minimize the impact on the network bandwidth. Periodic reviews of the site topology or the subnets for any sort of issues like overlapping or misconfigurations are necessary to accommodate the changes in the network infrastructure. Additionally, documenting the sites and subnets design aids the future planning and disaster recovery. By following these best practices, organizations can enhance the reliability, scalability, and the performance of their ADDS environment. Let us have a look at some troubleshooting tips. Troubleshooting issues related to the ADDS sites and subnets require a systematic approach. One common problem is the incorrect subnet to site mapping, which can cause clients to authenticate with remote domain controllers that will lead into the increased latency. Misconfigured site links may result in replication failures or the delays. It can affect the directory's consistency. Clients may also experience logon issues if domain controllers are not properly placed within the sites. Tools like repadmin and dcdag are invaluable for diagnosing the replication and the domain controller's health. Administrators should regularly check the event logs for errors related to site topology and the replication. Ensuring that the DNS records are correctly registered and updated is also crucial as the clients rely on DNS to locate the domain controllers. By proactively monitoring and maintaining the sites and subnets configuration, administrators can prevent and resolve the issues effectively. It ensures a stable and responsive ADDS environment. In a nutshell, the ADDS sites and subnets play a vital role in optimizing the network performance and directory services. They enable efficient authentication, reduce the replication traffic, and ensure the clients connect to the nearest domain controllers. Proper configuration involves defining the sites, creating site links, mapping the subnets, and placing the domain controllers appropriately. Adhering to these best practices and regular review of the configuration helps maintaining a healthy ADDS environment. Troubleshooting tools and proactive monitoring are essential for identifying and resolving the issues promptly. By understanding and implementing these concepts, the administrators can enhance the scalability, reliability, and efficiency of their Active Directory infrastructure. Now let's dive into the demonstration. To implement the Active Directory sites and services, we are using this fictional domain kuntoso.com and a computer which is Toronto DC1. This computer is not a domain controller. We are planning to deploy a site in Toronto location so that the users from there can authenticate locally. To localize this authentication in Toronto, we will install the Active Directory domain services on this server, and after that we can create the sites and put this domain controller into that site. I have paused the video and resumed for completing this installation of Active Directory domain services. Now it is time to promote this server into an additional domain controller into the existing domain kuntoso.com. For this, I will go to this exclamation mark, will add this domain controller to an existing domain which is kuntoso.com using my current credentials and click next. Here I will select the DNS global catalog, the services that I want to localize in Toronto region. Next is the directory service restore mode password. We'll provide a password for directory service restore mode and click next. Click Next on DNS delegation, where from this domain controller will replicate the database. It is London DC1 where from it will replicate. Next, this is the database location and the sysvol folder location. Select the appropriate location and click Next. And finally, after verifying the prerequisites for your domain controller, you can click Install to complete the deployment of this additional domain controller on Toronto DC1 machine. I paused the video and resumed to complete this deployment of ADDS. Now, we will manage the Active Directory sites and services from our HQ location, which is London. From London HQ, we will go to the Tools Active Directory Sites and Services Management tool. From the Active Directory Sites and Services, we will select this default first site, which is created by default when you promote your first forest root domain. I will rename it as London HQ. This represents to our London office. Then we have the subnets. We can create an appropriate subnet for London site. This subnet will be used by the clients to identify or to choose the nearest available domain controller for authentication. This subnet is connected to London HQ. In the same way, we can create multiple sites here by right-clicking on sites and create the new sites. I will create a site here for Toronto. We'll link it with the default site link. Later we can create a different link for the two sites to connect. We will create one more site here that is for testing purpose. Right click, new site, site link, and click OK. We can create the appropriate subnets for each sites that they have. We can right click on subnet and create the new subnet, provide the subnet prefix and connect it to the appropriate site. Toronto site uses 172.16.1.0/24. That's the CIDR block. Next subnet is 172.16.100.0/24 and this is test site. Each site has at least one subnet. Let us have a look at the default site link, which was created earlier by default and was used to connect all our sites. If we want to create the site link, we can choose the appropriate protocol, be it IP or SMTP. Then we can provide this site link a name and then decide that which sites will be connected through this link. So this is Toronto and test site that we are connecting using this link. We'll select the appropriate sites and add them to connect through this link. Click OK. We can see the properties of the site links. The site links have a cost, the replication frequency, and the schedule defined. We can choose the schedule from here. When do we want to replicate and when the replication is not available between two sites. For an instance, during the off-peak hours, I want to do the replication, and during the peak hours, I do not want the replication, which is Monday to Friday, the office times. We can define the frequency. Every 3 hours it is configured to by default. We can change it. We can also adjust the cost on each site link. The site link with lower cost is given the highest priority. I have configured this site link to connect the London HQ and Toronto sites. Now we can move our server from the London site to the Toronto site that we have created. Our newly promoted domain controller in Contoso domain is now moved to Toronto site. We can use command line tools. This is KCC, knowledge consistency checker, that we can use to check or to recalculate this replication. We can use repadmin KCC. The consistency check on the local host was done successfully. Next switch we can use is show replication. This displays the replication status when specified domain controllers last attempted to inbound replicate Active Directory partition. Here we see the inbound neighbors and the replication details. Last attempt was never successful. It is configured to run every 3 hours. Repadmin Bridgehead servers we can check. The sites can have the Bridgehead servers configured, which will accept the replication. We can run repadmin replication summary to see the summary of the replication. We can use dcdiag test replications command to test the replication, whether the replication is happening for these partitions of Active Directory, for SDNS, domain DNS, schema, configuration, the domain partition. Well, now we can select our server from the London HQ site. We can look at the NTDS settings of this server. It shows the automatically generated name. It is replicating from Toronto DC1. Let's validate the replication between two Active Directory domain service sites by making an object. I'm connected to the London DC1 and creating a security group of global security scope. I will connect to a different domain controller this time to validate this object if it is replicated or not. We'll go to the Contoso domain, and here is the test replication security group replicated.